Hi folks, in this video we're going to be talking about CF Express Type B cards and their readers and the actual performance that you get in the real world. I'm going to go through and show you the exact results that I'm getting on each of them and make recommendations for what might suit the kind of shooting you're doing or whether the existing cards that you have will actually do the job for you. Now, I plan to update my findings as I get more different cards and readers into test over the coming weeks and months. So I will make a PDF available over at my website free that you can download, and I will continue to update with the latest findings. So if you're watching this at a later date, go grab that and that will give you the latest updates because obviously more products will be coming on the market. But I will still link the ones that I test today in the description below in the order of their speed from best to worst. And I'll be linking to the exact product I use. As I'm about to explain as I run through the technology, there's some subtle variations that can actually yield really big differences in final performance. So you want to make sure you're getting the specific card. For those of you who are really just here to see the Z9 buffer performance, you can check the timeline below and just jump to exactly where you want to go. I'm going to run through now some of the technology behind these cards, tell you about my testing methodology, then we'll get into it. So, first off, CF Express is the latest and greatest media format that high-end cameras like the Sony a7S III or the Canon C500 or the Nikon Z9 are using due to their blistering fast transfer speeds. They're so far ahead of things like SD cards that we're used to. Now, of course, it depends on the overall system that you're working with. If you're using an a7S III, we just know that you're going to need a V90 card to be able to get the highest bitrate and the highest speed and get it all written to the card in time. That's just how it works. It's the same as if you had a high-end gaming computer with the best GPU, CPU, and RAM, but then you're running it off a really crummy old hard drive. You can't expect the best performance. But we don't all necessarily need to be shooting at the maximum resolution and the maximum speed all the time. So thinking about what's actually going to suit your needs is what you need to do here, because some of the cards are quite expensive and you could go from having a budget of thousands of dollars to get enough cards that you need, or you might find that what you already have is going to be sufficient. Now, CF Express is the latest format from the Compact Flash Association, and it's a lot more confusing than SD cards. First of all, there's three different formats within the range. First of all is CF Express Type A, which is basically the same size as an SD card, a little bit thicker, and that's what things like the Sony a7S III are using. They have a single lane of PCIe, and their theoretical maximum speed is 1,000 megabytes per second. Then you have these ones, which are the Type B, which have dual lanes and a theoretical maximum speed of 2,000 megabytes per second. Then you've got Type C, which is much bigger, and as I record this, there's really no cameras that use it yet, which has 4 lanes and a theoretical maximum of 4,000 megabytes per second. Now, it gets murky because, well, there's a couple of reasons. As I said, we know if we've been using SD cards for a while that you need the V90 and that there's a difference between a Class 10 and a V90. Even though the numbers on the card may be the same, the minimum sustained write speed between them is different. But so far in the CF Express world, we don't really have those clear classifications. And what's written on the card is the theoretical maximum read and write speed. But what you really want to know is the guaranteed minimum write and read speed. That's what's going to impact your real world performance. And cards that outwardly look like they're going to be similar performance can be vastly different. Take a look, for example, the 128 gig Pro Grade Gold card and the same brand, Cobalt 325 gigabyte. In terms of price per gigabyte, they're not too different in price. They both say 1,700 on them, but in real world performance, in actual minimum sustained write speed, the Gold only gives you 140 megabytes per second, whereas the Cobalt is giving you 1,400, literally 10 times the speed. And just looking at the box, you really wouldn't know. You need to dig into the specs to find that, or watch a video like this. Now, because the CF Express B is the same size and dimension as an XQD card, and a lot of cameras started out using XQD, but then had firmware updates that supported CF Express Type B. I'll include some of these in the testing. Just note that most cameras that take one will take both, but not all. But a lot of readers will only take one or the other. You have to read it carefully if you want a reader that's going to include both of them. And then when we look at readers, we also then need to think about what is the interface, because the cards are faster than USB 3.2. To get the most out of them, you're really going to need Thunderbolt 3 or better. Okay, so to test the cards out, I'm going to be using the Nikon Z9. I have over a dozen different cards. I've actually already done the test, and I decided to end up doing 5 different tests. The camera offers 3 different levels of compression for the RAW files. So the first 3 tests are going to be all at the top 20 frames per second. The first one is lossless RAW, and that's around 51 megabytes per file. Then test 2 will be high efficiency star, which Nikon says is indistinguishable in quality, but a much smaller file. That comes in at 32 megabytes per file. Test 3 will be high efficiency no star, which is a more lossy compression format, and that's about 20 megabytes. Interestingly, not much bigger than the JPEG. Then test 4 is kind of selfishly for me, but I think it's going to be helpful to a lot of you. For that, I'm going to do lossless RAW, so the top quality, but at 12 frames a second. And test 5, lossless at 15 frames a second. Just because the camera has slow motion video or 20 frames a second RAW doesn't mean you have to have your camera locked in that all the time. And unless you're shooting the 100-meter finals at the Olympics day in and day out, you probably don't want to destroy your hard drives like that. If you're doing portraits in a studio, 1 or 2 frames a second will probably be sufficient. If you're doing landscapes, the same or less. If you're shooting any normal kind of sport, 8, 10, 12 frames a second is probably going to be enough. So I did the 12, but then I decided to do the 15 because, spoiler alert, some of the cards were just doing too well. So I locked down the camera on my Pro Media Gear ball head and legs. Now the first card we're going to test is the ProGrade 128 Gold CF Express. In test 1, it got off 33 frames, test 2, 45, test 3, 69, test 4, 39, test 5, 35. So, that is a benchmark for us, and I can tell you right now, that's basically performing about as well as an XQD card. This camera is higher res and faster than a lot of cards can handle, and you really want to choose the cards that will suit you. But if you're doing in-studio or landscape, getting 33 or 35 frames at top quality off in 1 or 2 seconds is probably more than you need, so maybe you don't need to invest in cards. But let's run through all the other tests here, and reminder, you can check out the PDF link below. That's where I will update all of my findings. Whilst I have you, please head on over to my photography website, learn.mattgranger.com. That's where the PDF file is, and you can also download my guide to improving your portraiture for free, and check out my Wedding Photography 101 guide. This is the entire wedding day. You're going to learn the 100 images that you must capture on the day, everything you need to pack, prepare, and plan, and how to shoot everything. The couples getting ready, the ceremony, the after party, all the group shots, everything you need to pull off your very first wedding shoot. So check it out, links in the description below. The second card tested is the 256 Gold. It got 38, 61, 111, 52, and 46. A notable jump from the 128 card, and you'll find as we go through here that there is variation between the sizes of the cards, the kind of performance you're getting. Next up is one that I had a feeling was going to do really well. That's the ProGrade Cobalt 325 gigabyte. Lossless, 20 frames per second, 81 images. High efficiency star, 456 images. High efficiency, 1052. And when we went to lossless, but at 12 frames a second, it was unlimited. I just kept firing and it wasn't budging from that remaining number after taking 1,000 shots. So I bumped it up to 15 frames a second, and it's also lossless. So if 15 frames a second perfectly in focus will do it for you, the ProGrade and some other cards coming up here will shoot forever. Next up is the Wise Advanced 160GB Pro card. It got 56, 127, 310, unlimited at 12 frames a second, and 120 at 15 frames a second. The 320GB variant got 55, 128, 314, unlimited, and 123. Okay, now here is the surprise of the bunch. This is the Wise Advanced 640 variant, the biggest of their Pro cards, and it smoked the tests. For 20 frames per second lossless, it got 82, the best. For high efficiency star, it got 479, the best. For high efficiency, it got 2,256, more than double anyone else. For lossless 12, unlimited. For lossless 15, unlimited. And to see how far it could go, I had to keep changing hands because my hand was going to sleep. It ended up taking over 10,000 images, and I'm confident it would have just kept going until the card was full or the camera exploded into a ball of flames. Really, really impressive. I also have some Delcam Black cards on the way. I will also include Richie from Richie Talks channel finding below for the Delcam card he tested, but it's a different capacity to the one I'm getting. I generally wouldn't include in my unbiased testing results from Nikon staff, but the way he did the test seems quite reasonable, so happy to include that in the table below. Next up was the Wise 1TB NonPro card. This one was, it's a slower card. It was getting 31, 83, 290, and then 116 and 31. So still better than the Pro Grade Gold card, surprisingly. The Sony 256GB Tough G card got 71, 22, 719, 205, and 163. Now, a couple of XQDs. The Sony 64GB G card got 34, 57, 72, 50, and 41. The 64GB Lexa Gold got 33, 51, 84, 53, and 42. The 128 variant got 33, 54, 83, 51, and 41, so actually a little slower overall. Then the 32GB Sony got 36, 59, 101, 55, and 44. And again, it's actually faster than the Pro Grade CF Express Type Bs, so in some cases, XQD is doing better. The last card that I've tested in this video is the Lexa 64GB CF Express Type B. This is 60, 155, 637, unlimited, and 156. So overall, folks, some big surprises and some not. Essentially, which card you use really matters. I knew that the Pro Grade Cobalt would do well. They're one of the top rated cards out there, but I was really surprised by the Wise Advanced Pro, especially the 640, being even faster. Just unbelievable performance. And actually, for bang for buck, the standard edition 1TB has so much capability. You're going to get your 8K 30 frames a second, probably 8K 60 on that card with a huge amount of storage. But do keep in mind, if you get a slow CF Express, there's basically no point. I have personally shelled out for a bunch of Pro Grade Golds in the past, and actually, now looking at the results, Lexa XQDs that are way cheaper actually are performing just as well in this kind of a test. So getting something just that is technically rated to go faster doesn't mean you're going to get the actual performance. So do check out the PDF and the links below. I'll have links to the exact product, because within Lexa or Pro Grade or Sony, there's different cards that could appear to be the same, but they're not in reality. So I'll link to the exact one I tested. If there's other cards you would like to see tested, please do let me know as a comment, and I'll try and update that PDF over at the website. You could also let the manufacturer know to send them out, because buying over a dozen cards starts to get really expensive. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, of course, liking, subscribing to the channel would be greatly appreciated. You can also check out my different courses over at learn.mattgranger.com. That's all of my general photography content. And as I mentioned before, you can check out my Wedding Photography 101 course, specifically designed to help you get out there and shoot your first few weddings with confidence. Now, this video has gotten so long, I will do a separate video, a part 2 on the readers. I have 7 or 8 different readers that we'll run through and show you, once you've captured all of these great images, which is the best option for getting them all to your system. Let me know your thoughts. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you guys soon.